Good morning and welcome to episode 21 of a Disney Life podcast. My name is Rachel and I'm joined here by my co host, Missy. Good morning, Missy.
Hi, Rachel. Good to see you today. And hello, listeners. Thank you so much for being with us.
Yes, we do appreciate all of you joining us for today. Today, we're going to be talking about another resort on Walt Disney World's property. We're going to move from a value to a moderate this time and talk about Disney's Caribbean Beach Resort and everything that the resort has to offer, everything that you can find at the resort, reasons to stay at the resort, everything that you could possibly think of. We're going to be talking about it today with at Disney's Caribbean Beach. So then we'll move into a top 5 of our favorite places to get dessert at Walt Disney World that's not in a park, so no park ticket required here. We have a listener question about the dining plan, and then Missy will close us out with our tip for the week. So stick around and stay tuned. So, as mentioned, we are talking about Disney's Caribbean Beach Resort today for this episode. This is a moderate resort. This is one of 4 moderate resorts found on Walt Disney World's property. So, Walt Disney World divides up their resorts into basically 3 main categories. There's value resorts, moderate resorts, and deluxe resorts. Within deluxe resorts, you will also find the Disney Vacation Club, villas, resorts as well. But so this was one of the moderate ones. So it's right in the middle there. And this is quite a large resort, right, Missy?
It is. I should have looked at the statistics ahead of time, but I think it is one of the most sprawling on property, if it's not the most. When we talk about moderate level resorts, you may be wondering what exactly is moderate about it. So when Disney categorizes their resorts, it's based on a whole bunch of things. Of course, when we're first planning trips, the first thing we're thinking about is the budgeting. So as far as your price point is concerned at Caribbean Beach, it's going to fall in the middle. It'll cost you more than the value resorts, but typically not nearly as much as the deluxe resorts would. Now, of course, that being said, there are times that maybe Caribbean Beach won't be discounted and Animal Kingdom Lodge will, and the pricing may be really close, or maybe you'll see a moderate a little over a deluxe at a discount. But overall, talking about their rack rates, Caribbean Beach is right there in the middle as far as pricing is concerned. And the other big thing I think of is what type of amenities you have at each level of resort. So, of course, if you listen back on the episode when we talked about the all-star resorts, we talked about a bit about their pool areas and the food that they have to offer. Everything at Caribbean Beach is going to be leveled up from that a little bit. The rooms will be a little bit larger. Your pool area will be more elaborate. There are hot tubs at the moderate resorts, which you will not find at the value resorts. So probably for most people, for a lot of the year, they aren't really concerned with hot tubs in Florida. But if you're somebody traveling during the cooler months, or if you're somebody who has some aches and pains from a busy park day and you want to do some relaxing in a hot tub at the end of the day, that's something to consider. And I can tell you, it's definitely something my family has considered before when choosing a resort, specifically when we're there for Christmas time trips, because we tend to not spend a ton of time at the resorts during our holiday trips. But at the end of the day, I do like to have that hot tub there.
Missy knows everything about every Disney hot tub. So she's
Well, that is not true. That is not true, but I do spend a lot of time in them, and I would love to learn more. So I guess we can put it that way. I'm sure there are some hot tubs on property I haven't been in yet, but I have experienced quite a few. In the rooms, you'll be looking at some upgraded amenities as compared to the values also. And I think we talked about it during our all-star episode that, even the toilet paper and the towels are bare minimum requirement really at the value. So you're going to have a little bit of an upgrade with those as well. Rachel, is there anything that sticks out to you when comparing the levels of resorts?
So, when comparing, I think another thing too is that with the value and moderate resorts, you have outside entryways. You don't have inside hallways.
Right.
That's
So
something to
you have,
consider.
I call those exterior corridors. I
Yes.
don't know if that is an appropriate term, but that's always what I call them so
Yeah.
that people can understand. Motel style, if you
Yeah.
will. This is not a large building with interior hallways. So,
Right. But I would say if you've never stayed on Walt Disney World's property, even if that does not sound appealing, it's very, very safe there. And You don't really hear noise outside of your room quite often, except for in the morning or in the evening when people are either going to the parks or coming back from the parks. So that's a big consideration as well. And now, but some of the vacation club villa resorts do have exterior entries too. Saratoga Springs would be one of them. Old Key West is another one. And those are such massive resorts with that. But Caribbean Beach, we mentioned that it was a huge resort. It's been actually pared back, and we'll get to why, I'm sure, at some point this episode, because they took out a huge section of it for another resort. But these rooms, as Missy said, they're usually better decorated, I would say, a little bit more
There's more
upscale.
theming, I
Yeah,
think,
there
right?
is.
I
Yeah.
think there's a little more theming with these with the moderate resorts than there are with the value resorts inside
Yes.
the room.
And you don't have the Murphy beds. Every single with the exception of the Little Mermaid rooms at Art of Animation, those other rooms have Murphy beds to get the 2 queen beds in there. You do have just 2 standard queen beds because it could fit easily with the room size. As Missy said, these rooms are a little bit larger. You also usually in moderates have a bit more of a counter space, also in your room where the television is, where that space is located. You have a little bit more storage to put everything away and keep it nice and tidy for you. Everything can fit easily under the bed if you need your suitcases under there, but you have plenty of space to put clothing in the drawers, plenty of space in the bathroom to put your toiletries. And so you just have a little bit larger of just a workspace in general.
Okay, so let's cover the rooms first, since that's kind of what you're getting into a little more with your description there in response to my question. So, as Rachel mentioned, most of the rooms are going to have 2 queen beds. Some of them will have a king bed, but for the most part, it's 2 queens. And then there are a lot of rooms there that have an additional fold down single bed. So these are, I believe, a little bit smaller than what a regular twin mattress is going to be that you would have at home. My daughter still sleeps on them. She's 16 years old and she is about 5'4", 5'5". So for her size, they still work out well. She cozies up on them. The only problem that we have ever had with them is because they are a Murphy bed and they fold up. I can remember times that her blankie that she would sleep with fell down in like the folded part of the bed. It was nearly impossible to get out of there. I
No.
could remember crawling around on the floor to get it out. And then we found some other items in there as well that previous guests had lost down in there and
No.
either
Oh,
didn't know
that's
or
horrible. And these, depending on the room, sometimes these kind of pull down and they do Disney will describe them as child size. Now, if you're staying in, for instance, a villa at Saratoga Springs, they have this single pull down as well. This is an actual twin size bed that an adult could comfortably sleep on. But Walt Disney World has been pretty strict in the past about you cannot put 5 adults in one of these fifth sleeper rooms at Caribbean Beach because the pull down is really child size. But sometimes when you have them, they might be under the TV area. Some of them are, and there's like a little bench that you can kind of sit at.
Right, and that's how these are at Caribbean Beach. It'll be under the TV and it's a bench by day and then folded
Yeah.
down, and there's actually, I think, 3 drawers underneath the bench as well. That's how we ended up getting to the blankie, was by figuring out how to release the drawer from its track and removing a drawer to reach behind it and get under there, but
Yeah. There's no these are actually go all the way down to the floor, unlike the beds where you do have some raised area where you can put suitcases under. These go all the way down to the floor. I'm sure that's for safety reasons as well that those do. So please don't drop anything. It's gonna be a hassle to get that out. But going back to the rooms, I've heard these describe the decor in there as Polynesian light. Have you ever heard that before?
I have not. I have heard Caribbean style, because you will see some. I think the shower curtain is floral. It's bright colors, island colors. There will be a table and 2 chairs in the room. As far as the sleeping accommodations go, I know we've seen some differences in the room types in for 2026 as compared to what it was for 2025. And I don't remember exactly what year they made the last change, because a few years back, they went in and kind of revamped all of the categories and all the resorts, adding in a ton. Now they've
Yes.
pulled back on that,
Mhm.
scaled way back on it, so there are very few categories. And as you were mentioning, there was a time that you were not able to book 5 adults in these rooms, but I have heard, spoken to people and seen some conversations online of people who for 2026 are able to do that again. So it seems now that they have removed the fifth sleeper option category. So for the last several years, there was a category if you booked a room called the fifth sleeper, that meant you were going to have a room with one of those Murphy beds guaranteed. That category is now gone. And we're back to our typical standard room locations, which will probably look out at a parking lot or service area, preferred rooms, which are the ones in the area closest to the main building. And now these rooms, these preferred rooms, the rooms themselves are the same as all of the other rooms at the resort, with one little exception that we'll cover later down in the Trinidad area of the resort. It's not the room itself that's different, it's the location of the room when you're talking preferred for Disney. So there's nothing extra special in the room itself. It just means that you're in a location that is either considered to be more desired for transportation or for close proximity to the main building with the food court or that type of thing. So at Caribbean Beach, the rooms are spread out around a large lake, and sprawling is really just that's the word, that's my go-to word
That
to
is a
describe this
kind
resort
word
because
for it.
it is just a massive resort. You
Yes,
will walk far
yes.
from some areas of this resort.
And some of it, quite honestly, depending on what location, it's just not very appealing to have to walk because you have to walk alongside of a road. There's kind of a bridge and everything. So some of the locations just are not very appealing to where you are. So it's the hub of the Skyliner. We'll get to that. But that's another thing with location too, is that you can either be by the Skyliner or you can be by the main building area, the old Port Royale. But the rooms themselves, so I have heard of them called Polynesian Light, to which I want to say, have you ever stayed at the Polynesian before? Because they look a lot better than they have in years past. The rooms have undergone just a bit of a touch up. The paint's lighter. They've gone to more of kind of a light blue. It's not like a Caribbean blue, but it's a lighter blue. Really makes it open and airy. There's a lot of browns in there, kind of wicker type furniture look for the dresser area. For a while, I think they had kind of a yellowish brown walls with that too, I believe. So I think that just kind of made everything look pretty dark in the room. So they are getting a little bit of a refresh, new flooring, and better paint on the walls to make it a little bit brighter.
Better paint.
Yeah.
You know, Rachel, it just when you just repeated that about being like the Polynesian, it sparked a memory for me that I guess I may as well share.
Okay.
Because that's what I tend to do here is randomly talk about things that aren't totally relevant. So I've talked here before about how my first trip was when I was 21 years old. And then our second trip ended up actually being for our honeymoon. And we stayed at the Polynesian for that trip. And it was a land and sea combination. And we were very ill on the ship due to a virus that was going around at the time. And ended up redoing our honeymoon the following year because we could not enjoy the ship at all due to sickness. So when we did it the next year, when we traveled again the following year, of course, we didn't have the budget that we did the first time around because we had been saving for years for our honeymoon. And we decided to do it more budget friendly. And I worked at the time, I booked my trips with a well known, very large travel agency that also works with automotive things. Okay. So I went into these people as my trusted travel professional and said, what do you recommend? And they told me this place is just like the Polynesian, but it's the Caribbean instead of Hawaii, but it's like just like it and you're going to love it and it costs so much less. I was like, okay, this is great. This is what we're doing. So we returned and comparing Caribbean Beach to the Polynesian led me to understand that these travel specialists were not travel specialists because
They need to stick to automotive.
so this was back, and I'll lead right into the next topic of conversation here with that, because when we arrived back then, so this was in 2004. And it was before the huge renovations that they did a few years back. And you used to actually check in at a separate building that did not house the food. You had to walk across a big parking lot, taking your stuff with you, or else ride a bus to get over to the area where the actual rooms and food court were. It was not the same experience as the cozy little Polynesian that you'd hop on the monorail and go to the Magic Kingdom. So anyway, maybe some people do think they're comparable. I do not. I think there are
Yeah.
very different experiences in all of the ways except for they're on Disney property.
Yes. Yeah, I
With
so
that
they
major work that they did there a few years ago, they eliminated that separate check-in building and they put everything in a much more convenient location in what they call Old Port Royale. And that is the large building that houses your food, like your main food court with the quick service food, your check-in desk, as well as a merchandise shop. So we have the Calypso Trading Post there, that's a merchandise shop. One thing that always comes to mind thinking of that gift shop is they have some resort specific merchandise there for Caribbean Beach, and they also have some Skyliner things. So the Skyliner has really taken off and become very popular with guests in a way that similar to what the monorail is, that
Mhm.
people buy merchandise specific to it because it's such a unique experience. So that's something I always think of there. So you have this main area with your Centertown Market food court and your pool is right outside it. And then you have a giant lake. And all of these sprawling buildings go all the way around the lake in little clusters
Mhm.
that they call villages. So it, I'm like speaking slowly because I'm trying to draw it out because it's just so big. I'm like trying to give you the
Give you
idea.
an idea of how massive this resort
Right.
is. So, yes, it is a sprawling resort with so much walking around you can do. In fact, it used to be a lot larger. They took out sections of an entire village to in order to create Disney's Riviera Resort, which by no means feels small itself. It is by compared to Caribbean Beach. Riviera is a lot smaller, but just the fact that they were able to take out half of Martinique's section to create Riviera shows how large this resort is. And I believe was the check-in building part of that demolition too, do you think?
Right. I believe their custom house building was originally over in the parking lot area. I don't know the exact lay of the land for where it was, but I believe it is now parking area for the Riviera Resort where that custom house check-in building used to be. So they've done a lot of work there and made a lot of improvements. And again, a massive part of that improvement was adding the Skyliner in. So
Mhm.
you had touched a little bit on some rooms being more convenient than others. And this is something that I hear from people a lot. Well, what's the best Disney resort? And where's the best place to stay at this resort? There's really no best as far as I'm concerned because they all have their pros and cons. And some pros are way more pro and some cons are way more con than other. But at this resort in particular, I feel like the preferred location may not necessarily always be the best location for a room anymore because there are some people out there who really just want to be closer to the Skyliner hub. So, our main boarding area, the Skyliner station for all of the stops, the main hub is at Disney's Caribbean Beach Resort. So, if you want to picture just a giant lake, it's kind of a long lake. It's hard to explain because
Yeah.
there's part of it goes part of there's an entire section, entire village area that goes down beyond where there's a bridge where the main lake area ends. So I mean, it's just very big. So if you stay there, you need to be prepared for walking. If you have small children, you will want to request a first floor room because to the best of my knowledge, they do not have elevators. Do they, Rachel? I know you travel with kiddos more often than me these days.
I do, but I don't I honestly do not recall. I think that would be very difficult, if you had a stroller with you. Uh, Now the buildings are not.
I am almost certain. So maybe we need to
Wow, that's a little crazy, to be honest with you. They would not It's been a while since I've stayed there with children. I only had 1 child at the time, and I know that we were on the
Oh,
1st floor, but
wow.
maybe they have just that many buildings that for families with small children, they can accommodate 1st floor
Can
request
do that.
util 'cause it's massive. It is absolutely massive. In fact, I'm looking at the map right now as we're speaking, and it just goes and goes
It
and goes.
goes and goes. So we have 5 total villages surrounding this lake area, and the categories are preferred and standard. And then you also get a bonus that some of these standard rooms are themed differently than the other rooms. So we talked about the island feel of some of them, but I know Rachel, you have stayed down in the Trinidad section before. Now, This is an area of the hotel. This is the part that I just explained was down further beyond where the bridge is over for the Skyliner. It juts down into a different lake area. It is not desirable. And I think one of the best instances of Disney marketing genius that I've seen in my time of following the Disney World Resort was when they rethemed those rooms to pirate rooms because they were the least desired rooms and it's Caribbean beach. And now this is going back several years and
Mhm.
pirates were really popular at the time, the pirate movie franchise. And, they do a lot of things for princesses at Disney World, but not so many for pirates. So Disney went ahead and made these really immersive guest rooms with pirate ship beds and they were just so much fun, and people actually paid more to stay in this undesirable area of the resort, but in these rooms that were very desirable,
Yeah.
that they charged more for those rooms than they did even for preferred rooms in many cases. I think they would still be really popular, except their big downfall was they constructed these they weren't big because the point is they were only full-size beds as
Yeah.
opposed to queen-size beds. So this was back in a time that the value resorts and the moderate resorts had full-size beds. And over time it has just become necessary and heavily requested by guests that they wanted larger beds and needed larger beds for their accommodations. So all of the other rooms were retrofitted with queen beds across all of the resorts, all of the value and moderate resorts. And of course, the deluxe resorts already had queens where they didn't have kings. They could not do that because of the way that these pirate beds were constructed. The pirate beds were very solid, heavy wooden frames, and it just was not possible for them to turn those into queen beds. So over time, once all of the other rooms were refurbished and had queen beds, then nobody was wanting to stay in the little pirate full size beds anymore.
Yeah, well, and I also heard complaints. I never stayed in one of the pirate rooms, and honestly, I would have with, my oldest. He would have thought that was so neat, I'm sure,
Right.
but,
Yeah.
yeah, they changed them before he was kind of really into anything like that, but I remember hearing a lot of complaints, though, about the bed that because of the special frame that they built, the mattress didn't exactly fit into it like it was supposed to.
Ah.
So, it was kind of the mattress is either, like, wobbly on a side or a corner or something like there was just something that people liked the rooms, but it was they were people wanted to stay in the rooms, but they were very polarizing because they did not find the beds to be super comfortable.
Right, and I think the beds may have been kind of recessed down into it well enough
Yeah.
that I think there might have been an issue, like you mentioned before, the Murphy beds and the side rails for small
Mhm.
children, the bed rails. I think they might
Guess
have
that
had
yeah,
trouble with them also. So, I mean, all the way around, these just weren't as amazing as they
yeah.
originally seemed like they were going to be. There were a few years when they were very popular, but that kind of fizzled out. And now, Rachel, what are they now? I know you've stayed in them.
Yeah,
So tell
I
us
have
about them now
stayed in
because
them.
they're
So
super
now
cute.
they're kind of a Little Mermaid light theme, but these are Little Mermaid inspired rooms. So they completely, as Missy said, pirates theming for boys, especially because Port Orleans Riverside is princess rooms. Well, Art of Animation has Little Mermaid rooms, and now we're going back to more Little Mermaid rooms. So these are Little Mermaid inspired rooms. There are some nods to the Little Mermaid. These rooms are very bright. They kind of have an aqua blue color to it, but it's not when you think of Caribbean and aqua blue, it's not quite that bright. But these do have a queen bed and a Murphy bed that is a queen bed. And when you fold it up by day, as opposed to the value resorts where you have the table, it's actually a couch, a little sitting area. And there is a fifth sleeper also in these rooms. These rooms, you cannot book this category as a separate category. These are standard rooms located in Trinidad. You can request one, and I know that when these opened up, these were really hard to get because there really wasn't much that the cast members could do if you called in to request a room location because these were just listed as standard rooms. But you can request the Trinidad section, and these are standard location in Trinidad. But I have stayed in one. Katie, who has been on the show before, we stayed in one night prior to another trip, and she got there early in the day and she checked in person and requested that we could get one of these rooms. These were very much in demand and made friends with the cast member, as she always does. And she got us one of these rooms. But I will say I really liked it. The Murphy bed, because it was unlike the beds at All Stars, these were actually lower to the ground. These were actually, when they folded out, it came down lower than the queen bed did itself. So these are a little bit lower to the ground, which I thought would be ideal for children to sleep on. Not quite as much room for them to fall at night. Katie's about 5'6" 5'7" and we actually pulled down the fifth sleeper to see if she could fit on it. I'm shorter than she is. I'm about the same height as Missy's daughter, and so I could curl up on the fifth sleeper easily, but she was able to sleep to lay on it and be comfortable on those as well. So I don't know if this would be considered more of an adult size, just twin bed, or if it was a child size Murphy bed. I'm not quite sure how that's being advertised, but we did really like this room. There was also in the bathroom, I thought this was nice. There was a little stool underneath the sink for
Huh.
children. So they could pull that out. It was a great place for children to stand and wash hands or to brush their teeth. I think that's a nice touch. And it's something, my youngest, my 2-year-old, whenever she hears me tell her older siblings, "Make sure you go wash your hands," she always has to be in there too. So having a stool for the youngest ones in your family is a great touch on that. But yes, Trinidad is completely an undesirable location. So why not just make a more desirable?
Right, so they did a great job with these, and
Yeah.
again, I don't think the rush to these rooms is quite as big as the rush to the pirate rooms was at the time.
Mhm.
Probably because they're not really pushing them, and it's not a separate room category that you can book, but they are there. Like we said, they are in the Trinidad section. So we have 5 villages around this lake. This lower section is Trinidad, and that's going to be buildings 34 through 39. So if you are booking this reservation directly, you're able to contact Disney to make that request, or if you're working with a travel agent, your travel agent would be able to contact Disney to put in a request for where your room is located, but you can't specifically reserve these rooms guaranteed. What you
Yeah.
can be guaranteed is a preferred room location. So the preferred rooms at Caribbean Beach are the ones located right there by Old Port Royale, and they are going to be the Barbados and the Martinique sections. So they're the ones that are going to be closest to the themed pool area and to your food there. Oh, and I forgot to mention concerning Trinidad, they do have some food down there also. So you don't have to go all the way. And I guess that kind of verifies for us how big it is. Disney realized that it was such a sprawling resort that they needed to give people a food option down there too. So we're going to discuss food as a whole in just a minute here after I finally tell you what all 5 of these sections are, but that's worth mentioning. So the Barbados section is located between Trinidad and Old Port Royale. And then the Martinique section, which actually happens to be my favorite area of Caribbean Beach Resort, is located between Old Port Royale and, as Rachel mentioned, the Riviera Resort. Disney's Riviera Resort is right there. Since the footprint of it is on property for what used to be part of Caribbean Beach. So it's super close. And we were actually in building, I think it was 24. Yes, it was definitely building 24. It's the one closest to the quiet pool in Martinique. And it was so close to Riviera, and there are walking paths. So we're not breaking
Mhm.
any rules or trying to go on some off the beaten pathway thing through the woods or something like that. There is a concrete path that goes all around Caribbean Beach and includes the Riviera Resort. And guests from Caribbean Beach are welcome to use any of the dining over at Riviera. And as always, if you have a rapid refill mug, you could refill them at any resort. So it was closer for us. At least it seemed closer. I didn't like count it out by steps or measure anything, but it seemed closer for us to go from our room in building 24 at Martinique to refill at the station at Bar Riva because it's at that end corner of Riviera. We'd refill our cups there instead of going all the way back to the Centertown Market area.
That's a great idea. Yeah, so I've stayed at Riviera and walked over to Caribbean Beach before. I know when Katie and I stayed in the Trinidad section, the Little Mermaid rooms, you were actually staying at Riviera, and we walked over there and met you
Uh-huh.
at one point during that trip. So I would say for me though, I also think Barbados is a great section because you do have Old Port Royal next door, but you're also just right across the bridgeway from the Skyliner entrance. So I think that also makes them preferred too. That even though Trinidad again, way out there. If you're on that far in building of Trinidad, I am so sorry. But you are too far away from the main Skyliner hub. But Barbados, at least, is kind of wedged in between both of those locations. And it's a quick walk over there, even though it's not the closest one to the Skyliner, but it's not too bad. But I will say, walking across the bridge, not super convenient. There is quite a bit of traffic coming through Caribbean Beach because it's such a big resort and can house so many people. So there's quite a bit of traffic going through there. But I have done, as Missy said before, I actually did the opposite. One year, it was 2020. And as things were opening back up, we went in October and stayed at Riviera Resort. And at this time, the parks were closing at like 6 p.m., 7 p.m. Do you remember that? They were closing so early.
Uh-huh. Very
And so
early.
yes, so we would go back to our resort and get dinner. Well, I love the food options at Riviera. I think they have fantastic options, but we had kind of had the same thing for quick service about 2 nights that week already. So I actually did a mobile order at Caribbean Beach and just walked over and got dinner there, and that was
Yep.
not an issue whatsoever.
And they do have, it's worth mentioning before anybody comes at us here, they do have the rapid refill stations in a couple locations around, and I'll get into that when we talk about food also. So we did not necessarily have to go all the way over to Riviera. But in case you haven't heard, this resort is massive. I did not know until recently that they had all of these refill stations around, and I have stayed there numerous times. So I guess my tip of the week really should be today to get a map and study it when you check in, because there are things on that printed map that I hadn't noticed just using the app. So
Well,
there's a
and,
bonus tip.
things like this could be added in too over time. I don't
Mhm.
remember what location I stayed at the first time that I stayed at Caribbean Beach Resort, but, we kind of knew our way between Old Port Royale and how to get to our room, and we did not explore all that much else because I had a one-year-old with me. It wasn't even 1 yet. That's kind of you don't really venture out too far into some of the other locations at those points, so it is worth looking into and looking at. Well, last time I stayed at Saratoga, I found other refill stations that I did not know
Didn't know
existed.
we're there. Yeah.
Yeah, walking from one location to the other.
And it's a safe bet that you're going to find one at the quick service location, but many resorts have started opting into putting them elsewhere also. So that's a big help. So as we continue our lap around the lake here, skipping over to the other side, if you exited from Barbados and you started to go left around the lake, rather than going down to Trinidad, which is at the far ends of the earth here,
Yes.
we make it sound so much worse than it is. It's not that bad, you guys. It's not that bad. It's just a lot of walking. And if you're doing a lot of parks, that, you may feel that at the end of the day. But there is a bridge that connects over to either the Skyliner station or into the Jamaica area. There is also an exit, not really an exit, but an entrance across a bridge that goes across the water and onto an adorable little island there. And that's from right near the Old Port Royale area. So you can kind of cut across the center of the lake and come out right between in the Jamaica and Aruba areas. So the other side of the lake is where you'll find Jamaica and Aruba. Now, the two of those used to not be so desirable because, as we mentioned, the main center was over at your Centertown Market, Old Port Royale area. But now that the Skyliner station is open, Jamaica is the closest village to the Skyliner station, which makes it very desirable. And then Aruba is actually so close to the Riviera station that I know of many guests who are heading to Epcot choose to get on the Skyliner there, because if you get on the Skyliner at Riviera, your next stop is Epcot. So that's something to take into consideration also, and why I say there's really no perfect location there,
Yeah.
because they all do have good things about them, except, I mean, really, Trinidad, I don't know if that has good.
Except for the rooms at
No,
well,
I
the
kid.
rooms at Trinidad,
I kid.
I
Yes.
will admit Caribbean Beach has my least favorite rooms of a moderate resort. This is my
Uh-huh.
least favorite moderate resort. The exterior, I think this resort is charming. I think Old Port Royale, they've done a fantastic job with that location. It's
Mhm.
beautiful to walk around at. Last time I was there, we just really enjoyed just kind of taking it all in. It really does have a vibe to it. And the food court is massive. It's a very large food court. It's busy and bustling there. The rooms just are not my favorite, but I did enjoy the Little Mermaid rooms in the Trinidad section. But you're just, if you have the ability to walk or you're not going to spend a lot of time trying to go to the parks or anything like that, that is a good location or need to go back for quick service, except for you do have Spyglass there. I also mentioned with each of these villages, they all have their own beach area. So some are larger than the others. Aruba and Jamaica have large beach areas on them. Poor little Trinidad does not. Well, actually, I'm sorry, Trinidad does. Barbados has a very small beach area, but I think
Yeah,
Barbados,
I believe they all five villages have a beach area, and actually Trinidad and Jamaica have playgrounds as well. Now keep in mind when we say a beach area, this is not for swimming. There you do not go in the
please
lake.
don't. If there's
But
water in Florida, there's an alligator in it.
right. So, but the beach area usually has some hammocks around and the kids can play in the sand and relax. So that's nice. So, yes, there is a playground area in Trinidad and Jamaica and a beach area in all of them. And all five of the villages have pools as well.
Mhm,
So, you have your main theme pool, which I forget the name, but it has two water slides in the main pool, and then it has a separate splash area that's like a pirate ship
mhm.
themed splash area for the younger kiddos. And then there is a decent sized hot tub there as well. I've definitely been to that hot tub to enjoy it. Oh, Fuentes del Moro pool
Yes,
is the
Fuentes
name of
del
the pool.
Moro.
I did have that in my notes here. And then each village has a quiet pool as well. So, a quiet pool may not be the appropriate term. It's kind of the old school term that we used to call pools. There's nothing, I don't think there are any actual rules about being quiet there. It's just they're non themed. It's just a regular pool, right? Some
Yeah.
people call them
Yes.
quiet pools, but it's not like there's any relaxation leisure rules there. You're going to have kids there playing and having a good time. So,
Mhm.
don't think just because we're saying quiet pool means, well, I can't take my kid to that pool because my kid's loud.
Yeah.
We're all
Right.
loud, so
Right. Yeah.
we're fine. We're fine. Now, of course, if you're looking for any type of food or beverages, the quiet pools will not have those. Just the theme pool area will have some options there for you with that. But those pools that are in the different villages are decent sized pools, and y- I think they really went above and beyond what they had to do there, making swimming convenient for everybody. And, my family is big into swimming, so that's a big thing for us. There is a
Yeah.
restroom at each of the pools also, and I think their laundry facilities are located in the bath near the bathroom areas of each pool also. So there are laundry facilities all over the resort also. So even though we keep saying how big it is, all of those conveniences are there if you just know where to look for them. So
Mhm.
again, get yourself a map for that because it will help.
Yeah, this is a great resort. Like if you wanted to have a resort day, this is actually a great resort to consider staying at because you can get on the Skyliner, go resort hopping. You have so much going on. The feature pool is a fantastic pool. It has a zero entry. I think it's a very pretty pool. The theming around it is, but again, you've got the quiet pool. If you don't feel like walking all the way to the feature pool, or if it's kind of getting closer to evening and the feature pool is going to be a lot more crowded, the quiet pool will be quieter just because it attracts fewer people going in. I also want to note the hot tub says it is a 12-person spa pool, so it's quite large.
It's pretty big. It's one
Yeah,
of the larger ones on property. I think Coronado may actually have the largest. I have
okay.
not fact checked that, but just from my memory, I feel that's larger than any of the others I've been in. Although the one at the boardwalk was pretty big also, but I don't think as big as the one at Coronado. That was a pretty large one. But yes, it's a generous size hot tub there. I do wish there'd be more hot tubs all over everywhere at Disney because I would make use of them, but that's just me. I know that's not everybody's thing. We had touched base a little bit on playgrounds being in each section. There's also a playground in that middle island area I mentioned, how there's that bridge that cuts across between Jamaica and the Aruba area there. There's a playground there. That's where they do their movies under the stars, which is fun for it to be out on that island area. I also love just so dusk there is so beautiful. And I think dusk is
Mhm.
probably my favorite time of day at any of the resorts because they did a tremendous job everywhere with their lighting and it just makes everything so relaxing with how these resorts look. But I just love being able to watch the Skyliner go by, looking out at the water. There is a marina there. I believe you can do some fishing out of there. The marina is located near the main area, but the movie Under the Stars, I believe, still happens out near the playground on the island. And then they do have a campfire area for nighttime campfires also. And I believe that's over near Martinique, just
Yes,
where you
that's on the
first enter the
Martinique beach,
Martinique
yeah.
area.
And
So
out that little island too, I do wanna note, so Coronado would be my favorite moderate, and Coronado got a major upgrade when they put the bridges over the lake there because it made it so much quicker to get
such
from
a
one location.
difference.
Yes, such a huge difference, but
Huge.
it's just a straight shot. It really is. You're just going straight one way, straight the other way. This island at Caribbean Beach, there's no straight path. You're just kind of winding on this island. It's very relaxed, but it's nice. It's nice. It's very, if you're staying at Caribbean Beach, go to the little island. There's places to go and sit that are close to the water. There's kind of these little gazebo type areas that you can find out there. And it's just nice. I think it fits with the theme of to relax, take your time because you're not going to take a straight path on that island. You're just going to wind through it. And there's several paths that you can take on there too. But when I stayed at Riviera, were staying closer to the Skyline station. So we actually walked through Aruba and I would walk across that island to get to Old Port Royale. But I walked the other way as well from Riviera Resort over to Old Port Royale for dinner before at Sebastian's, which we'll get to at some point. But Missy mentioned some of the activities movies under the star. There is also campfire on Martinique Beach. At the Caribbean K movie lawn area, they'll also have an island party where you can dance the night away on select nights. It looks like just about every night except for Saturday. There's a Caribbean Glow Fest at the main pool deck. So you can light the evening with poolside activities there on Saturday. So there's an island party on every night but Saturday, and Saturday there's a Caribbean Glow Festival at the main pool. They also offer Mickey tie-dye, and that's gonna be at Old Port Royale a few days a week. It looks like 4 days a week that's going on. And under the seashell painting, that sounds fun too. That's where the Mickey tie-dye takes place. These are Mickey the under the seashell painting and Mickey tie-dye are an extra fee that you will need to pay in order to get the supplies. But these take place between 2:30 and 3:30. So whatever day the tie-dye is taking place, the seashells will not, and vice versa. And there's also poolside activities that you can find in the afternoon around the main feature pool too. So there's plenty to do and see and explore at the resort. And your resort will have a resort board that will show you activities that you can find for the day or for the week.
And this resort does not have a gym, but they do have a running trail. And to give you an idea on the size that we've been yapping about here for like the last hour, it says that the running trail is 1.1 miles. It does not cover the entire resort. It only covers down in the Jamaica, Barbados, and Trinidad area. So you're over a mile lapping that, not including Martinique and Aruba. So that just gives you a bit of
Yeah.
an idea on the size of things for that.
So
What
if
we
you wanna
haven't
work out, just walk around the resort and at every village stop and do 20 push-ups and you'll get a full body workout.
So, Rachel, it's kind of funny that we're focusing on the things we are because typically the first thing we focus about is the food, and we haven't even touched that yet.
We're getting there.
So, they do have a large food court there, Centertown Market. They have the refill stations there. There's mobile ordering, or you can order at the counter. We talked a bit about Trinidad. Now, Trinidad does have its own little quick service restaurant that does have some seating. It's called the Spyglass Grill, and I believe you can mobile order there as well. So that would be my recommendation if you are staying down in that Trinidad area. Get breakfast there before heading out so that you're
Yeah.
fueled up for the day because it's going to be convenient. And the only people using that are going to be the people right there in that area. It's really not somewhere that's a destination for people to go to. Most people don't even know it's there. So that Spyglass Grill can come in handy. One of my favorite outdoor bars at Disney, and one that I think has the cutest name, the Banana Cabana, is located there next to the theme pool. It's not inside the pool area. There
Mhm.
is seating, some comfortable seating there, and counter service if you wanted to just walk up to order a drink. So that is handy. And that is in the same shared building as Sebastian's Bistro. Rachel, have you ever eaten at Sebastian? I think you said you did, right? Yeah.
Yes, yes, I have been to Sebastian's, I wanted to try that, this is actually when we talked this is how we got over there, this is just came back to me. You were staying at Riviera, but you were having dinner at Topolino's, and I had dinner reservations at Sebastian's. This is the episode I mentioned a couple episodes ago that Missy was so sweet and bought my Diet Coke for me because that's all I got at Topolino's, and, then I walked over to
Oh,
Caribbean Beach
nice.
to have dinner at Sebastian's, and we just stayed over at Caribbean Beach because we were staying there that night anyways, but I wanna mention too, before I get to Sebastian's, Banana Cabana, it is super cute. It makes you think of any Florida town where that has a little bar out on the beach. That is what Banana Cabana reminds me of. So
Right, you
it's
can see the lake from there, and,
yes,
I mean, again, I mentioned dusk before and all the lighting. I believe they have, like, the hanging lights, like, overhead, and it's just it's a really nice ambiance there. I think
yes,
it
it
makes you
really
feel
is.
like you're relaxing and not surrounded by resorts in every direction, because this is
Yeah.
one of the few resorts that you can see some off-property hotels from there in the distance. So when you're there, you can be submerged in it. But if you look too far, you'll realize, there's an end of the magic
Yeah.
somewhere.
Yeah, somewhere,
Stay
yeah.
away.
Going back to Sebastian, so it is located along the Old Port Royale Promenade, and, it is an indoor seating area. This is a table service restaurant, but their meals are served family style, so you really don't get an option of what you're getting. They just kinda bring it out to you. But you're
It's
gonna
similar to
begin
Ohana. When I first
yeah,
saw
similar to
saw the
Ohana, yes.
menu a couple years ago before I dined there, I thought, "Oh, well, this like the best kept secret in all of Disney World," because it almost sounded like a mini Ohana with the food. It wasn't, spoiler alert, it was not that for me. But continue on
Well,
with
it's a
your
very different
experience.
vibe and very different feeling. Anna's kind of dark inside of it. Sebastian's is not. It was very bright, very crowded too. I don't know how crowded it is now. This was a couple years ago. It hadn't been open all that long, but the seating was a lot closer together. There were a lot smaller tables. I know at Ohana, some of the tables are very large because it does accommodate and attract large parties in that, but we sat at a table for 2. We started out with some pull-apart rolls. They had guava butter or caramelized onion jam to go on those. I really liked the guava butter, I remember that. There was also an appetizer. You've got some salad coming out. They had some candied pepitas, I believe, and some tropical fruit that you could have. And then, a Caribbean-inspired main course, which had some oven-roasted citrus chicken, some slow-cooked pork, some chili rubbed beef, and then some fish as well. And those came with cilantro rice and beans, candied plantains, and some seasonal vegetables too. So that is what you have on the menu there. You can also add on some shrimps. We know that Missy's family were huge fans of the shrimp, but uh, this does not come with it at Sebastian's, but you can add it on for an additional fee or some crab and seafood cakes with that too. And then finally, for dessert, there is a coconut pineapple bread pudding that's served with caramel sauce and vanilla ice cream.
So,
So, what do you
here's what I remember of it. It
okay.
I remember that everything was covered in some type of, was it a cucumber relish? There was something all over everything I did not like. That flavor got onto all of the meats. And I asked them if I can have just a serving of one of the meats without it, and it still had that flavor. I don't know if they just
Mm.
scraped it off and brought it to me or what, but whatever it was not tasty to me. I left there hungry. I was not a huge fan. I would definitely try it again sometime, going in knowing ahead of time specifically what to ask for and to see what type of modifications they can make, but it was not something that instantly really, I mean, I just didn't like it. I'm trying to think
So,
of a nice way to
I
say it. I didn't
remember
like it.
I remember the meats especially, so from what I remember, the sides, they kinda came in their own individual bowls, so you didn't have cross flavors on that, but I do remember the meats,
Right.
any sauces on one meat kind of got on everything else, so I do remember that. Unlike where you have Ohana where the meat's brought out individually, the
Uh,
beef is brought out, the chicken's brought out, it's all brought out separately, this was
right.
all together, so, yeah, I do remember that. There was one sauce I did not care for, I don't exactly remember which one that it was, and, it did kind of spread out to other plates, but I think that's kind of a complaint that I would have across a lot of their family style dining in particular anyways. I know what the kind of the point of family style dining, how they serve it that way, but I wish kind of the sauces were on the side so that way I could choose what sauce I wanted on it and not
Right,
have everything
exactly, and
taste
maybe
like
it
that.
was the cilantro, there was something with cilantro, could have been that, I don't know, there was something that I just once I got the flavor and it just I couldn't get rid of it, and it seemed like it was
Yeah.
on everything, so I would definitely try again, maybe request that it's on the side to start with and see how that is. It's a super cute place, very
Mhm.
convenient if you're staying there, like you said, have a resort day, it's a great table service option. It's not somewhere that I would say, "Let's leave a park and go there," but, it's not bad
Yeah,
for
it's not
well, I
bad,
mean
and they do offer a plant-based menu too. I could not tell you what's on the plant-based menu because I'm not ordering from that, but, it is there as well, so they're
no, that
offer
would not have
plant-based
helped my
options.
cause at all.
Yeah.
We did mention previously there are Coca-Cola freestyle machines around on property. So there are 8 of them, I believe, if I counted correctly, 8 around, plus your drink options in the food court. So there are plenty of places to refill. And that means water also. If you don't have
Mhm.
the rapid refill mug and you have water bottles to refill, you can use those stations for them at no cost. So that's handy
Yes.
also.
Yes, and, we also didn't mention that there's a did we mention there's a bus stop at each location too? I don't even know that we
No,
did.
because it's so darn giant that you can use a bus to get around the place.
So, each village has their own bus stop, as well as there's a bus stop located outside of Old Port Royale. So, this kind of as nice as it is to have a bus going around, this also kind of makes it inconvenient as opposed to when we talked about All Stars, where you just have one bus location that's centralized. You do staying here need to account if you're heading to the Magic Kingdom and you're taking a bus, account for some extra time because you may not be at the last bus stop. You may be the first bus stop, and it's going to take probably 15 to 20 minutes to get around to the other bus stops. This is also important if you are traveling with a party that has a scooter. The buses can only accommodate 2 scooters at a time. So staying here might not be the best option because you could be waiting for a while, or you need to get your family to the very first bus stop in order to make sure that you get onto the bus.
You may also be the last bus stop and the bus will already be filled. Like the
Yes.
next bus coming may not have space for you. This seems to be common practice for Disney's moderate resorts. The only moderate resort that does not have multiple stops is French Quarter because French Quarter is super cute and compact. And
Yeah.
the size just doesn't require it. Port Orleans Riverside, Coronado Springs, and Caribbean Beach are all moderate level resorts that do have that internal bus system riding around. So you can also take the internal bus if you need to. Say you're in Jamaica and you don't want to take a walk all the way over to Old Port Royale, you could take the bus and hop off of it over there. You can use the app, the My Disney Experience app, and take a look there at bus times, and they're pretty accurate. It is not a terrible situation. You just need to have your expectations in line. You can't just assume that because you're ready and arrive at a bus stop that a bus is coming. So give yourself plenty of time traveling to and from where you're going, and you're not really going to have an issue with it. They are reliable and they do run very steadily.
Yes.
Nobody wants to be in a rush and then and not even be able to get out of your resort for another 20 to 25 minutes because you're stopping and stopping and stopping. If you know ahead of time that you're doing that, it's not a huge deal. You could budget in that time into your day and your itinerary. But I've spoken to people before who were not prepared for that, and it was pretty disappointing to them at the time. And you can imagine me at 21 years old trying to compare that to the Polynesian. I was dumbfounded by it all. Like,
Yeah,
what is
how can you
going on?
call it the same? Yes, and, also, depending on which bus stop or what building you're located in, sometimes it's might be faster to walk to another village's bus stop, or if you are getting back from the park and you know you've got 15 minutes before your bus goes around to your bus stop, get off at another location and walk, and if it's that's gonna be faster, but they will run more buses in the mornings and in the evenings to this resort, so you don't have if you Magic Kingdom bus because it's full, you don't have the issue of, "Oh, well, I've gotta wait 40 minutes because it has to go drop off, and then it's gonna pick up again, and, oh, we have to wait and see." There's gonna be other buses that are traveling around. I have seen in the past, not necessarily Caribbean Beach Resort, but I have experienced this at Coronado that if the bus gets full, it does not go all the way around sometimes, especially
Mm,
if the bus driver knows that they are not having to drop off other people, because I have hopped on
right.
a bus before at Old Key West that's going to a park knowing that I was not the last bus stop and needed to get to another section. So I just hopped on the bus and got off at a different section to
To
get
get
closer to the
yourself
main
there.
building.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can do that too if you know that it's not going to be leaving, and if it is, then, I guess you're in for the long haul, but I have seen the buses before that when they get full, they don't even go all the way around, they'll just go ahead and leave and head to the park.
So I think the last thing that I'd really like to talk a little bit more in detail about, just in case some of our listeners out there aren't familiar, is the Skyliner. So since Disney added the Skyliner system, it's really changed everything, I think, for Caribbean Beach Resort. It is now my favorite moderate resort to stay at. If that's the budget area that we're looking for with a trip, that's the first place I'm going to check for my family or whatever group I'm traveling with, because I absolutely love the Skyliner. And to me, it makes it worth staying at a resort to be able to use that if my trip is going to focus on Hollywood Studios or Epcot. So, just a brief explanation on how the Skyliner works. As we mentioned earlier in this episode, the main hub for the Skyliner is at Caribbean Beach over near the Jamaica Village. And from that hub, there are three different Skyliner lines that goes out. One of them goes to Pop Century and Art of Animation Resort. So, typically, the only guests using that line are guests that are staying at either of those resorts, but it's really open to anybody. If you're staying at Caribbean Beach and you want to just try something different to eat, and you've been there a few days and want to check something out, or even just head over to Disney's Pop Century or Disney's Art of Animation Resort for fun and to take a look around, because they are really fun resorts. We'll do future episodes on those, I'm sure, because we've experienced them many times. That's the line that you would take. Out from the center of the hub is the line for Hollywood Studios, and it is a straight shot from there directly to Disney's Hollywood Studios, and it's a very short ride. I remember when the Skyliner first opened back in, I think, 2019-ish. In 2020, it was fully open. I took videos of the rides and I was shocked at how quick they were. I think it was 3.5 minutes from Caribbean Beach to get to Pop and Art of Animation, maybe 4 to 5 to get to Hollywood Studios. Those two rides are pretty quick rides, straight shot. The Epcot ride is a little bit longer because when you board the Epcot line at the main hub at Caribbean Beach, you will first stop by at the Riviera Resort. And at Riviera, you have the option to either disembark there to visit Riviera or just stay in your car and head on to Epcot. So when you disembark finally at the Epcot exit, you'll be at the International Gateway area, which is either the people call it the back gate to Epcot. It's located between the UK and France pavilions there in the World Showcase area of Epcot, or it will also get you to Disney's Boardwalk area and Disney's Yacht and Beach Club resorts, as well as the Swan and Dolphin and the, is it Fantasia mini golf? Is that what that mini golf is called there over by the Swan Reserve?
Yes,
I think that's what it's called.
yes.
So for any of those things, and if you book a Walt Disney World Resort vacation package, you will get a free mini golf round in there for each of you. And that's not something you're sent a ticket for. And a lot of times they don't even tell you about it with the package, and unless you're reading all of the fine print. But when you arrive, you should see those mini golf vouchers pop up in your My Disney Experience account. So that's something that's easy to do if you're coming from a Skyliner resort. Pop Century, Art of Animation, Caribbean Beach, Riviera, all of those will get you very easily to the boardwalk area. Some people think that because it runs to Epcot means you need an Epcot ticket. It is not inside the theme park. It is just outside the back gate of Epcot. So you can take that Skyliner over there, and it's not that bad of a walk. I mean, heck, if you've been walking around Caribbean Beach, what's another mile to
Right.
get over
Probably
to the
closer,
mini
to
golf?
be honest. If you're in
I
Trinidad, you're closer too.
just keep going. You're
Yeah, so
numb
I
anyway,
wanted
you know?
Yeah, I wanna mention real quick, this is funny. So, we were this over the weekend, we were watching a video with my kids. If you've ever heard of Dude Perfect, they did recently that, some of the guys actually broke the record for visiting all 12 Disney parks around the world in the least amount of time.
Oh,
So, they
wow.
had to visit and ride one attraction at each location. So, they rode Guardians of the Galaxy at Epcot, things like that. So, as we're watching it as they go to the Florida, so 2 of the guys, there's a larger group at this point. 2 of the guys went on the challenge, but when they went to Walt Disney World, the rest of the team joined them there. And it was showing the rest of the team, and they were playing mini golf. And my husband goes, "There's a mini golf course there?" And I said, "Yes, there are 2, and we get free tickets every time we go." And he looked at me like I had 3 heads, like, why have I not told him about this? So
Because then
It
you'll
might
need
be
to go
something your
stand in
family's
the Florida
interested.
sun and mini golf. That's
Yes,
the
yeah,
problem with that.
absolutely. So I said, "Well, maybe depending on what the weather's like for our rest day, if swimming is just not gonna be an option, maybe we can go play mini golf," because I have tickets and tickets and tickets on
Uh-huh.
my app of mini golf. But, yeah, he had no idea. I thought he did, but, he looked at me like, "Why have you been keeping this secret from me?" So go play mini golf on the courses.
And those tickets, if you don't use those tickets, they'll remain in the app, I think, for up to 2 years, 2.5 years. I've had them stick in there for a really, really long time before. So if they're still in there, they will still be good. So you can stop by over there, and the Skyliner is an easy way to get there. I think, honestly, it's probably 3/4 of a mile to a mile from the Skyliner entrance to mini golf, depending on what route you take. If you do it the fastest way possible and cut through the boardwalk in, it might be a little bit faster than looping around. But it's just over there near the Swan Reserve. There is a crosswalk to it. They expect people to go there. And if you have trouble finding it, it is in the same area as the Porte Cochere for the Swan Reserve Hotel. It's directly across from that. So it's easy to find. I think that we have covered everything important that needs to be said about Disney's Caribbean Beach Resort. If you let me keep going, I could probably come up with some things. But overall, as I mentioned, Caribbean Beach is my favorite moderate level resorts. The rooms are comfortable enough. I think the room sizes are the biggest of the moderates as far as the square footage goes for each room. Maybe it's the same as some others, but it's definitely larger than some. I think French Quarter might be the smaller ones. And then
Makes sense,
Riverside
though,
and
'cause French Quarter
Coronado are about
is
the
smaller.
same.
Yeah.
But overall, it's a great resort. I highly recommend it. I am planning on staying there this December for a short weekend holiday trip, so I may have more knowledge to share with you after. After that, we'll see. Maybe we should have delayed this episode until I experienced it once more, but now I know about all the freestyle machines, so there's that.
Yeah, now you know where to go.
Right. Well, thank you for listening today. And I think it's time for us to go ahead and get into our top five.
So today's top 5, we are talking about top 5 places to get dessert at Walt Disney World that are not in the park, so no park ticket is needed or necessary for these. So, I'm just gonna go ahead and say right now, we've not compared lists, but I our number 1 might be the same. So, all right, Missy, what do you have for number 5?
Okay, so my number five, I'm heading over to the Port Orleans resorts, and I'm cheating a little bit because it's totally two in one. Because I there wasn't one that I could eliminate, and here's why. So we have the beignets at Port Orleans French Quarter Resort, and then we have the Mickey bars over at Port Orleans Riverside. And to me, they go together as one, even though they're technically two separate resorts, but they're sister resorts. We could probably debate it, but my family and many people out there absolutely love the beignets, and we have gone to French Quarter before just to get them. But I'm honestly not a huge fan. I love the Mickey bars. The magic bars, not Mickey bars. They're called magic bars, and they are a chocolate chip and butterscotch chip with a little bit of coconut, a graham cracker bottom. They're my favorite there. They have them at a couple places. I've gotten them many times at Wilderness Lodge, but they do them best at Riverside. It's just factual because I've tried them all and there's no debating it. So when we all go to French Quarter to get beignets for the family, I make us take a little walk over there to get to Riverside so that I can get one of my magic bars. They're my favorite. And they're the type of thing, you just use it's like the simplest recipe. I make them at home with the graham cracker and butter on the bottom and sweetened condensed milk and the chips and a little bit of coconut. But they are delicious and they do them just right there at Port Orleans Riverside. So I'm giving French Quarter and Riverside my number five.
I may have to go find those on my trip when I'm staying at French Quarter, walk over and try some of those because I had no
Yeah.
idea they existed until you've mentioned them before. So
Yes.
my number 5 takes us over to Disney's Riviera Resort, and this goes to Le Petit Cafe, which, depending on what direction you're coming in, might depend on where you find it. It's on the main level where the check-in is located. It's actually located right beside the gift shop there, but if you're coming in from the Skyliner, you will need to go upstairs on that. This location serves up coffee, lattes, cocktails, wines, but they have a nice selection of pastries, and they usually have a seasonal pastry there. This time of year, they're probably gonna have some kind of pumpkin mousse type thing they've had in the past, but they have a great selection of pastries that you can get there that you're not gonna find in the quick service location. All right,
So
Missy, what
do
do you have
you
for number 4?
I have a follow-up question to your number 5 first. So when you first
Yes.
said Riviera, it made me think of the chocolate chip banana bread that they have down in their quick service. Do you know if they have that upstairs in the cafe as well or no? Have you seen it
I'm
there?
trying to think. I don't know that I've seen it there. I think it's just
It may
I could
just
be
be
wrong. It
downstairs.
could just be downstairs. Yeah.
Well, regardless, Riviera is a great place for some desserts. So, okay.
It is a great place for some desserts.
For my number 4, I have this is very not traditional. I listed Roaring Fork at Disney's Wilderness Lodge, which is just their quick service, but they usually have some really cute cupcakes and they get runner up for best magic bar on property. But what I really like there, they have this little, I think they call it a campfire s'more cupcake. And they have them year round because, the fire and the fireplace at Wilderness Lodge and everything kind of goes along with it. But they usually have a nice display of different bakery items there. They usually have the giant cinnamon bun shaped like a Mickey head, that type of thing. So it's just an easy place to get to if you're at Magic Kingdom and you want to take a break to go get a snack. You could ride the ferry boat over there and get yourself a little something at their quick service.
Yeah, they have a lot of cute things at their quick service too. So mine also takes us to a deluxe resort for my number 4, and this is Pineapple Lanai, and go there
Uh,
for a Dole Whip at Disney's
I knew
Polynesian
you'd be
Resort. So
there. I knew it.
these are not my favorite Dole Whips on property. My favorite would be the Tropical Serenade at the Magic Kingdom. But if you're ever in the mood for a Dole Whip and you are at Disney's Polynesian Resort, this is a separate stand location that's located outside of the main building and it can have a line there. So I know last time that we were there, we were sitting and waiting for our Ohana reservation to be called. And we looked outside and there was quite a few people in line waiting to get a Dole Whip. But this is fantastic. They used to have a Dole Whip location inside of Captain Cook's there, and I believe they took that out because it was just get your own cup and fill it. People probably took a lot of advantage of that. So now you have to go to
Yeah,
Pineapple Lanai
that
to
may
get
have
your
just
Dole.
been from my children alone, actually. I can remember being there. I remember, oh my gosh, they were little at the time. I think it was 2014. So they were pretty young, but they were old enough to be allowed to run over to the drink refill and fill their drinks on their own. And they saw the Dole Whip dispenser and thought it was like, you refill your cup, you could refill your Dole Whip. And they were like stealing Dole Whip. I had to go back over and like, I'm really
Yeah.
sorry. Didn't know my kids were accidentally stealing this Dole Whip here. But yeah, so that's gone. Also, out at Pineapple Lanai, they have my favorite kind of Dole Whip, and it's because I like the vanilla Dole Whip that they put the coconut rum on. That's the only kind of Dole
There's
Whip
nothing
I
wrong with
like.
that either.
I'm not a huge pineapple fan. There, I do enjoy like a little bit of pineapple flavor in some drinks, but I don't think I could ever eat an entire Dole Whip, a pineapple Dole Whip, and enjoy it. But I love the vanilla with the coconut rum on it, so you can get that at Pineapple Lanai too. So for my number 3, again, I'm cheating. This is probably my worst list ever. And I kind of always say that because I couldn't pick just one spot and it is not my traditional spot. I am not a giant fan of Disney Springs because, again, it's big. There's a lot of walking. And when I'm spending money at Disney, I'd kind of rather do it in the theme parks. I feel like you go to Disney Springs and you just spend money, 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 and you could have just bought a park ticket for the day.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
basically, Disney Springs has a ton of places that are great for dessert. So if you're looking to not be in a park, get yourself to Disney Springs. We all know about Gideon's at this point. If you don't, look it up. Gideon's is an incredible bakehouse that has giant cookies that are delicious. And my other option there is Summer House on the Lake has a bakery, like a to-go bakery with some big delicious cookies also. So that's somewhere that you can grab a special treat kind of on the run. And if you're going to do Gideon's, you need to be strategic about it because the lines are really huge. Sometimes they're running a virtual queue line out there just to be able to buy cookies. And then the problem you'll have is that you'll buy a cookie and you've just spent an hour and a half eating somewhere else to kill time before it's your chance to go buy a cookie. And then you don't have any room for your cookie because you can't eat it. And then you want to carry it with you. And then it melts because it's a chocolate chip cookie and it's a mess. So you need to be strategic with Gideon. So there's the disclaimer on that. But yeah, Disney Springs, excellent place to go while not in a park to get a dessert.
So my number 3 is at Disney Springs, but it's not one of the 2 locations you mentioned. So I said Amorette's.
Okay.
This is a bakery and a patisserie there, and they have all sorts of desserts that you can purchase. They have mini cakes not Minnie, but Mini, that you can purchase. This time of year, they usually have a lot of Haunted Mansion themed cakes. I
Mm,
know that you can get the stretch room portraits, to get those chocolates there. Those used to be pretty
mhm.
exclusive to the Magic Kingdom, but they have them there now, so that's a great place to go and purchase those. But we make a stop there every trip and grab something of some sort. But they have a huge selection and they kind of wrap you around the room. Sometimes it can be very crowded depending on what time of day that you go. And so you're kind of going along and being like, you're just walking along the window. They're doing it on purpose. You're just walking along the window till you get to the register and just keep grabbing and asking for more and more desserts.
So
All right. So what do you
I
have for
think
number two?
so my number 2 and my number 1 were tough, and I'm quite certain
Okay.
that you must have one of them. There's no way you don't. There's
I'm
no way
sure
you
I
don't.
do.
But I think it's gonna be my number 2 because it recently got pushed out a little bit. So my number 2 is going to
Okay.
be Beaches and Cream at Disney's Beach
All
Club
right.
Resort. If you've ever heard me talk about Disney, you've probably heard me talk about going to Beaches and Cream because it's something that we make it a point to stop in every trip. Back to when people didn't really know it existed and it was less than half the size that it is now. We've been going there for a really long time before the kitchen sink was popular or anything else. We love going to Beaches and Cream. So it's a cute little soda shop. You really should make reservations ahead of time if you'd really like to eat there because the walk up list is not typically open for more than just like one or two guest counter seating because it does fill up well in advance. There is a takeout window there though. So if you're there just to get dessert and you don't need a seat, you could always go to the takeout window. They have all types of shakes, malts, ice cream, sundaes, cones, bowls, whatever ice cream treat you're looking for there at Beaches and Cream. It's located just behind the Stormalong Bay pool area. So if you're not familiar with it, you can go into the lobby and then follow the hallway down. It's gonna seem like you're going the wrong way because it's a pretty long, winding hallway to get yourself, and then you go outside to get back into Beaches and Cream, but it is located at the Beach Club. You can get there easily from, the back gate of Epcot or from Hollywood Studios if you want to either walk, ferry boat, or take the Skyliner. That's my number 2. What do you have, Rachel?
So, well, my number 2 is BOMA. So, this is really we've done a lot of just kinda grab and go spots and locations, even though,
Mhm.
Beaches and Cream you can make reservations at, but I think BOMA has a wonderful selection of desserts on property, and
Huh.
2
I
words.
never like, we could
Yeah.
have been here all day long, and I would have been guessing places and for you and never like, that never I never would have gotten there,
Well, there's
ever.
one particular item that you can get there that is why it makes my list, and those are zebra domes.
Zebra domes,
So,
okay, yep.
yes, zebra domes
You
are
know, you can get I've gotten
fantastic.
them down at the Mara also, you can get them to go.
I know, yeah, I had that note
Yep.
too, but however, I love Boma. Boma is my favorite buffet on property. It is not a character buffet, so we're not visiting it this time, but it's my favorite buffet on property, and, I'm not a super huge dessert eater. I'm one of those people that I'll take, like I usually want, like, just a bite or 2, and then I'm good, but I will fill up a plate at Boma of desserts. I think they have fantastic dessert options. I think the food there is just fantastic in general. And I love zebra domes. And yes, I will go over to the Mara and get zebra domes there. Also, anytime that I stay there, that's usually what I do on my last morning, go and get some more zebra domes.
Hmm. We're nearing the point that I guess I'm gonna have to start sharing them with the kids when I get them there because it was always like, "Oh, you can't have these. These have alcohol and they're just for
Yeah.
mommy."
Yeah. Too
All
bad.
right, so my
Too bad.
number 1
All
is
right.
one of Disney's newer options. I have a feeling Rachel knows where I'm going here. It is The Cake Bake Shop
I
by
think
Gwendolyn
so.
Rogers on
Yeah.
Disney's Boardwalk. So, again, we're in a location along the boardwalk that is at the back gate to Epcot at Disney's Boardwalk in Resort. There are 2 options there. You could either make a reservation through the app or on Open Table and be seated in the restaurant to have your dessert or a meal. And there is also a takeout bakery area, and the bakery is absolutely gorgeous. It's worth a stop in there, even if you don't want to be seated at the restaurant and you would just like to take a look at their beautiful displays of desserts. They have all types of things in there, including the cake that they are very well known for. And they have drinks to go also, some very tasty things, alcohol included. So they do, I think it was an espresso martini I had along with my chocolate cake when I was there a few months back, and it was very tasty. I've eaten in the restaurant several times also. I love that their decorations change along with the seasons, and she just does an absolutely incredible job with this resort and not the resort, with the restaurant, and how it's presented, how the food is presented, how it tastes, everything. It is expensive. I know a lot of people were knocking it when it first opened because of the price of the slices of cake. The cake is huge. You can easily share a piece if you choose to. I don't think I've ever eaten a full piece on my own. I may order more than one and then have a couple tastes and take it with me to go, because they will package it up really nice for you to take along. And then you could also get a little adorable reusable shopping bag from there also to carry it with you. And they have little coolers too. When I was there last time, I bought like a little soft
Oh,
cooler.
nice.
So it's super cute. It's a fun option. Definitely not for an everyday thing because it is pricey. But if you're looking for a special treat to go have with your family or friends or whoever you're with, then I definitely recommend the Cake Bake Shop.
All right, well, that's not my number 1 because I've not been to the cake bake shop, but my number 1 was
Stop,
Missy's number 2, and that
Rachel.
is Beaches and Cream.
All right. Well, I'm thrilled that Peaches and Cream is on there. I kind of knew that was coming, but where is my list? I seriously have started a list of things Rachel and I need to do together
Things
now
I need to go
because
do. Well, and really just cake bake. I know when you went the first time, I had not arrived yet, so I
uh
could not join for that. And then when we had our trip in July, we were just kind of busy
Yep.
for most of the time there too, so it kind of made it hard. But Beaches and Cream, the No Way Jose, fantastic, so yummy and so good. For me, the ice cream there is a destination, not the food. I don't visit it every trip because of that, but I love a good scoop of ice cream, and they have good scoops of ice cream, and we always try to figure out what's gonna be the most cost-effective way for us to make our sundaes to get the No Way Jose, or do you build your own and see if you can make it the same. So we've tried a couple of different options with that, but I it's a fun environment, and it's always a good place to go and sit and get some ice cream.
There have been times that I thought, I just wanted something smaller. I couldn't have the giant Noe Jose. So the Noe Jose is 3 scoops of ice cream. They typically make it with, I think, chocolate and vanilla. I always order it with the cookies and cream, like with the vanilla ice cream that has the Oreos in it. That is my preferred way to have it. But I thought, you can't always have 3 scoops of ice cream. It's a lot. And I've tried to make my own create your own sundae smaller before, but by the time you add on all the ingredients that it has, I paid much more for a much smaller sundae than if
Yeah.
I had just gotten the giant one. I just want to be like, can you just like leave out a couple scoops the next time? I hate the
Yeah, just
waste. And then you feel like you need to eat it, and I end up so sick after. But it's
yes.
hard to say no to it because it is delicious. So
It
I'm
is
there with
it
you.
absolutely is delicious, yeah. Yeah.
So, for this week's question of the week, a listener asked if they can use the dining plan at a resort where they're not staying. So, Rachel, would you like to handle that question this morning?
Of course, and the answer is absolutely, you sure can. We've talked about resort hopping many times. Having the dining plan is no reason not to resort hop. So use your app mobile order at the quick service location. You can use your credits right from the app, or you can go and order in person, but you are more than welcome to do that. Your resort refillable mug that comes with your dining plan will work at their refill stations too. So take that as well if you have the means and the ability to carry it or the desire to. But yeah, you're more than welcome to use your dining plan at other resorts quick service locations. As we've talked about, their quick service locations are unique to the resort. So there are several options for you out there. If you're staying at Caribbean Beach and you want to go over to Riviera, use your dining plan. That's not a problem at all.
Very good. Yeah, I think it's important when people choose their resorts to make sure they're choosing somewhere that they think the quick service options are something that their entire family will enjoy, because that's where you're going to spend a lot of time is at your own resort. But you are certainly not limited to only dining at your resort. You're welcome to visit any of Disney's resort hotels to use your dining plan credit. So that was a good question. If you have a question that
Yeah.
you'd like to send in to us, we would love to hear it. You can email us at a disneylife at storybookdestinations.com or at podcast at storybookdestinations.com. You can also find us on our socials. We have a Facebook group where you can ask some questions, and we have an Instagram and a TikTok, Disney Life Pod. where you can join in some of the fun for some clips during the week and some other things we have going on. And we would love for you to be part of that conversation. And we'd also be happy to hear from you if you have any questions or comments on anything we discussed in this episode. If you've had different experiences at Caribbean Beach and would like to share that with us, we're always looking to talk more Disney and learn more from our Disney friends. So we hope you'll participate in that with us. Today's tip of the week that I have for you is a seasonal type tip. So we are at the point now that the Halloween season is ending and the Christmas season is begun. And sometimes when people are planning their trips, they have trouble determining which one of those activities they want to enjoy. Do they want to have the festive fall things happening at the time, or do they want to enjoy the holiday Christmas decorations that Disney puts out? One thing that I know is popular for some families and works well with their schedules is to try to schedule to see both of them. So the last not so scary Halloween party will take place on October 31st. Typically, every year, it's right there at the same time. And then immediately after, those cast members are hard at work starting to get ready for the holiday season. I know this year, November 7th is the first Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party at the Magic Kingdom. So while you will not see all of the holiday decorations traveling within that week, it is possible to hit both of those things if you'd really like to and close out the spooky season and get right into the merry holidays. I know for me, that's the trip I look forward to the most every year is the holiday trip. I'm not so much Halloween as I am a Christmas holiday fan at the parks there. That just is always the cheeriest time for me. But I get really, really eager for it as soon as Halloween ends. So that's going
Yes,
to do it
yeah,
for
and
today.
yeah, not all the oh, go ahead. I was I was
No,
gonna
go
say that
ahead.
and yes, not all the decorations will be out, but if they're ready for the Christmas party, Magic Kingdom will be decorated. So, yes, you may have to wait a little while for all the resort decorations to go up or for the other parks to be fully decorated, but it is possible to hit both, and we've done it before.
Yeah. I know. I remember you talking about it, Rachel. So, yeah, that's a fun thing.
Yeah.
I know last year I specifically stayed at Animal Kingdom Lodge for one night prior to moving to Pop for a few nights for a holiday trip. And we were there in November. And sadly, the Animal Kingdom Lodge tree went up the day after we were there. So there's really just no telling. I kind of followed the schedules, read some online for what had happened the year before. And I have learned there is no set way for them to decorate. They have their own processes for determining what tree goes up what night. It's just a surprise to the guests in the morning. So I would also say don't plan around where you think the trees are going to pop up first because they may not. And that early in the season, they'll be few and far between. The closer we get to the end of November, I think you'll see all of the trees up everywhere at the resorts. But as far as the festiveness in the parks, specifically Magic Kingdom, you'll see that very early in November. And I think that's all that we have for you today. That'll do it for this episode. Thanks for chatting with me, Rachel. And I'm exhausted now just from thinking about going all the way to Trinidad, but I am a little bit inspired
Yeah.
to try out one of those little mermaid rooms now. So we'll see how that goes. I haven't made any requests yet for my December trip for a room location. I'm still debating on that. So we'll see. Maybe we'll give Trinidad a try. Anyway, thanks for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed listening to us talk about our Disney life, and we hope that you will join us again soon. Thanks so much. Have a great day.